back, everyone. It is Sunday sit-down time. We got PowerMizzou's Jarod Hamilton in the house for Sunday sit-down tonight. Had a late night. Thanks for getting to the studio today. How you doing?
I'm on 4 hours of sleep, but I'm here.
It's the Mizzou beat. We love it. College football is in full swing. You know, take me back to that game at the Dome last night. What was the atmosphere like? You know, first time back there about, I think it was 13 seasons almost.
Yeah, it was a pretty good atmosphere. I got there early. There was some tailgating going on, so I got to see some of that, see some of the fans, and they were all excited. Obviously, coming after that big win versus Kansas State. It was a good turnout. I think there was a little bit over 45,000 fans there. So for what it was, because I don't know if people thought it was going to get sold out. I still think it was pretty good, though.
Well, I want to talk about the game. Obviously, the St. Louis native is the one we're going to hit on first. Brady Cook has been, as we said before we sat down here, he's been balling out the last two games.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway of Brady Cook the past two games? Really starting to get those throws downfield now.
I mean, just in all aspects of his game, you can see like his development, the progressions. He's reading the field better. He's taking those deep shots. I mean, you can tell that arm feels a little bit better. There's a little bit more zip on those passes. I mean, he doesn't look like the game manager that some of us have referred to him as. He's actually making those plays down the field, and you can just see how much more comfortable he seems in this offense overall.
Well, Luther Burden was his go-to guy last night. Career best, 177 yards. I mean, the kid could not be stopped last night. What did you see from Luther Burden?
10 receptions, 177, and it's crazy that he probably could have had close to 200 if his leg didn't cramp up
right,
on
if he
him.
didn't cramp up.
I mean, that's 3 straight games with 100 receiving yards, 3 straight games with at least 7 receptions. I think this was his first game with 10 receptions in a game. And then if you go back to week 1, he's 4 yards away from having 100 in that game. So that could have been 4 100-yard receiving games to start the season after not having any last year. I mean, this is an all-SEC first-team type of guy we're talking about right now.
It seems like Nate Pete has really, bounced back from the season he had last year, seeing him doing better definitely this year. What have you seen between the balance between him and Cody Schrader? It feels like Nate's maybe having a little bit more success getting down the field a little bit.
He is, but I'd say Cody is definitely – I mean, Cody's leading the SEC in rushing right now.
He is.
I mean, last week they couldn't really get the run game going, and then he breaks a 37-yard rush, late in the second half, and that ended up being a touchdown on the next play. He finishes this game with a 37-yard rushing touchdown. He had that fumble in the first half, and he said something post-game as far as like it's kind of good to see the coaches stick with him after he fumbled, and he played really well after. I think what they're doing is really good. Something that Nate Pete had a problem with, and not even just talking about fumbles, is sometimes he gets stuck behind the line of scrimmage trying to do too much. You just see him going for it. He just takes the ball and knows what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to go forward, and they're just a good balanced attack. And this year you kind of see it's not a who's going to be the starting running back or who's going to get the touches. They're kind of feeding off of each other, and it's working well.
Well, I think injuries were a big concern going into this game. Brady ended up playing with that hyperextended knee. Obviously didn't see the tight end Brett Nortfleet out there. He has a rib injury. One that wasn't really on my radar was Darius Robinson. Obviously went down with that calf strain. What did Eli talk about with the management of that injury? Yeah,
he said it's something that's kind of been a nagging injury for at least going back to last week. I feel like it's probably longer than that. He said it kind of locked up on him or something like that in the fourth quarter of last week's game, and the same happened in the first quarter versus Memphis. So that's with those type of muscle injuries, and especially a big guy like him and an important piece like him, you've got to monitor that carefully. They had Drayden Norwood go down with the ankle sprain. Drink said he doesn't know if that was a high ankle sprain or just a normal one, but you've got to be cautious of that. I mean, it got so bad that the cornerbacks had Jalen Carlisle, starting free safety, playing cornerback. It's probably not what they want them to do. Luckily, they have a lot of good talented safeties where they can do something like that, but they were real thin at cornerback last night.
Well, I know they'll need to get healthy before going into SEC action. This today coming out that Mizzou breaks into the AP top 25, ranked number 23. Do you think this is maybe the corner that Eli Drinkwitz has been wanting to turn with this team? Obviously 4-0, good start to this season now.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you start off 2-0, and everybody's kind of like, what is this the offense you were talking about? And then you kind of see that was all a smoke screen. Go out versus number 15 K-State, and you put it on them. You came back 4 different times, and you were able to win that game in miraculous fashion. And then you do it again. You show like this is really the offense. It wasn't just something they saved for Kansas State. They showed versus Memphis like this is how we're going to do things. I've never seen a star wide receiver be as open as Luther Burden was on the play where he got the cramp, 56 yards. There wasn't a defender within 20 to 25 yards, and that's not even being hyperbolic. Like there was no one around him. So the way Kirby Moore in the offense is scheming things up, and the defense, it didn't have the greatest day, but they were able to get a couple takeaways. I mean, if they can kind of get on track and get the third down situation going, I mean, 540 total yards, 34 points, 0 for 8 on third down. So if they get that going, I mean, I don't know. Sky's the limit.
Right. Well, you go into Vanderbilt, obviously looks like a winnable game in Nashville, you would say. And then the possibility from there looks like going obviously 5-0 into a big game against LSU here in Columbia. Do you think that's obviously shaping up to be a pretty decent possibility now?
It is. It is. I mean, now they can't overlook anybody in the SEC. Vandy showed last year that they weren't going to be an easy out for anybody. I mean, they gave Missouri a run for their money last last year in Week 8. Missouri started off 17-0 in that game and then just escaped 17-14. So Vandy won't be an easy game to win, especially on the road. They've got a couple good wide receivers. Will Shepherd is someone that they're talking about over there, like how we're talking about Luther Burden here as an all-SEC first-team type of guy. So they got to be wary of that passing offense of Vandy, but it's shaping up that 5-0 possibly could, be something that happens when LSU comes to town in Week 6.
Well, obviously, 5-0 is the goal, but you look at past that, really we were talking just a couple of wins away from bowl eligibility. That's something they're usually fighting for, it seems like, at the end of the season. It's not something we're usually talking about this early on in the season. How do you think that changes things a little bit when you get that bowl eligibility early on in the season, maybe looking at sky's the limit from there?
Well, yeah, you start. I mean, last year, obviously, they were trying to scrape to get in towards the end. I mean, it was the last game of the regular season versus Arkansas to clinch a bowl eligibility. So when you can kind of knock some of that early, I mean, you're basically saying, how far can we get? How high up this ladder can we get to? And they're probably thinking, obviously, SEC championship, as they should. Every team should be thinking that. But, they should just one at a time, take it one at a time. They say every week the goal is to go 1-0. So that's what they got to focus on. But, yeah, if they can keep, racking up wins and stuff, you're talking about much more than the Gasparilla Bowl.
Right. Well, I agree with you there. Well, we will both be in Nashville next week. Looking forward to it. When are you going to make the trip out there?
Sometime Friday morning, something like that.
Maybe I'll see you on the road out there. All right. Well, thanks for joining me on a sleepless night coming into this one.
For sure.
The rest of you guys will be right back after the break.